Hello fellow subscribers. Today's video is weird. It's not a video with a script and a plan. I've been getting a lot of requests to see how I work with live drums. So I dug up a session of one of the demos that I recorded with one of the bands here. And I thought I'd use it as an example. This multi-track, but it's just a demonstration of my production skills. Please do not assume that the example in this demo represents my usual content. I want to show you how I create drum tracks completely from scratch so you can understand my process and reasoning. This is not a typical part of my workflow, as I usually work from a template. Since I don't want to do it in headphones, I will do it in monitors, so the microphone will be turned off when the music starts. Maybe later I'll make the music quieter, but for now, well, I will be commenting on everything that I can. Something I may forget. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, and my co-workers, because co-workers are awesome. Let's hear what we got here. The vocals are understandably absent from the session. It's pretty straightforward. I think that's what we need. And so what would happen in my case if I was working with this tracking from scratch? The first thing I would do, even though I did the tracking once, is I would check the phasing of all the elements. I would do this starting with the overhides and listen to the behavior of the overhides and the snares. They're obviously in the right polarity now, the bottom one. Snapper, but I think you'll notice that when I switch the phase flip, the bottom disappears, which means that everything has been done correctly. Everything's in place on the inside. Outside, there's no right way to do it. In one case there's a deeper low end, in the other case there's a more punchy low end around 100, so we'll put it like this. A lot of people neglect this, but I'll listen to what the hat mic does with the newer. I'd flip his phase oddly enough. Thrash Mike and I will listen to them solo a little bit later. Let's find a place where a man is playing racket tom. It's got rack toms and floor toms, everything we need for a long active life. Let's do a looper. Okay, better not. The flip of the floor phase. I guess we'll leave it that way. We didn't bother with it much on this record. As I said before, it was in production. Demo here, it's better to flip the phase. You can hear that both the drum and the snare become tighter in this case. The drum back is a microphone behind the drummer. And I don't really like the way it phases, but let's verify if we are capable of retaining it. Let's listen individually to perceive how everything sounds, including each separate element. And hold on, we still possess the drummer's talkback. By and large, usually this microphone is exclusively utilized for intercoms, but I'm specifying this for precautionary purposes. It's not clear, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's keep it that way for now. Let's listen to the individual elements of the drum kit overhead. Inner drum. It's okay to live with the kick-up. The question is more about how they mix with each other. Let's create a folder right away. It's done by a simple drag and drop called BD Life. I have it in my template, but just so you understand the logic, I'm doing it now and BDOL. Why do we need a BDOL? Because I'm going to make a copy of this track here of the drum's internal microphone, and it's going to be our trigger drum channel. A little bit later. Well, if you want, you can add it right away. I have a slightly different layout of everything that's going on right now, so don't mind the trigger I'm using for this is the trigger here. It will come in handy a little bit later. So now let's do the same operation with the neuron, with the neural, with newer trigger, and with newer. Life is coming this way. With newer trig goes here. Let's take the group off and let the newer trig go to the same channel. Here. Okay, we copied it. We are expecting. I remind you once again that this will be an unofficial video and it's quite spontaneous. I suggest you to be understanding. The speaker, I know the drum is singable. A lot of people will say that's normal. It sounds quite singable, as I said, but when guitars are added to such a drum, it kind of sits better in the mix. This very strong, noticeable tone becomes not so noticeable and just equalizes, roughly speaking, well, for my taste, the balance between attack and head tone. A lot with Noah, maybe I would do a little bit differently in a normal situation. Let's cut a little bit of bottom thrash mic. I don't know what. It sounds like a microphone in some kind of plastic box from the sound of the rack tom. Okay, floor tom. It's a little wide and a little low. And Vera, we're with you already. Listen to this XE stereo top. It's a KG's 24 great mic drums. Usually on such recordings I also put a room in the hallway, but since it was a production we put such a basic set of microphones and drums back. Is a microphone behind the drummer's back? I don't understand why. It's pretty cool. Okay, let's see what happens next. Let's take a Vera, I think, with newer while we close the drums. Close the drums. And see if we need to change the way the overheads sound. I'd shake them down a little bit. I'll probably use the Pulsar 178 for that. If you hold down the shift, the inputs-outputs are linked if you don't know. Okay, that seems fine. I want the overhead to give that effect, you know, when you're in a room with drums from the neural brain beats. It kind of compresses everything else a little bit. I think we could use that effect a lot as long as I don't go crazy with it. The second thing is that I would never in my life put together a drum solo, so I'm definitely going to open up the bass guitar now, but before I do that I want to do another drum subgroup and make a couple of parallel buses that normally exist in my template, but just so you can see how it goes, I'm doing it now, called PC Chandler. PC Crash. For now, it's enough, as it's not hard to guess Chandler. It will be Chandler Xena Bender. Such a great plugin from Softube here. It is a classic limiter with curve bender, equalizer, all the drums and everything from newer. In this simple way. We can check here and the drums went in, but the newer didn't go in, and in the same way in the crash channel I'll send the drums and the newer will open them for a while. To understand what will happen in these crash channels and what you want, but since it's such aggressive music you want everything to click and slap. I don't like the balance between barrel and newer. I'll add a little more barrel here. About as a starting point here for the crash, I usually use Devil Lock. Devil Lock Deluxe. Let's use Sound Toys with the work and see if it works. It's working. It's working. Okay. The idea of crash compression works like this, but it's really not compression already. Almost such an overload in that, again, the tone is a little bit to pull out, a little bit to pull out to say, singing rims of hope. Well, parallel compression of the near drum, understandably. It puts everything a little bit together and adds punch, how to make punch drums. So, okay, let's look at the near drum for now. We are not interested in stronger. I'll make it quieter. In principle, we can see how the neurals will behave if we put them close to each other to the point of insanity for this purpose. As you probably already know, you can double-click on the channel and hold down the modifier Alt to move it a little bit. The whole wave is comfortable in the Ripper because here on top we can see the amount, and on the ANDA, when I switch, we can hear how the sound will change. Probably almost nothing. I like the sound better when we don't move it, although purists would say we shouldn't do that. Okay. We can also look at the position of the near relative to the overhead and try to move the near relative to the overhead microphone or the overhead microphone relative to the near. In this case, it's probably better to move it. It doesn't really matter that we've phased everything else relative to the overhead, so let's try moving the overhead mic. And reverse its polarity, because what? Because it's out of phase with the overheads. Panchouette, let's go back 3.5 moves. Three and a half moves back. So one more time. You know, I like what's going on in this case. I think that I would probably leave it like that. Let's see what happens with the overheads and the room. The interaction with the room shouldn't change at all, so it should be okay to go back overhead. I just idiotically reversed the polarity here. I like the way it behaves with the near in principle, but we can try to clear it a little bit. Why not use this channel strip? This slide in V2 is a perfectly good sounding bastard. It's definitely not our exponential version, but here we can use a little equalization. I will try to use my favorite expander, which everyone hates so much, as an expander. I will try to expander up to the channel strip. First, we'll make everything a little bit hypertrophied. As a side chain strip, I'll probably use the middle to take this attack from the nœud. Let's hear it. So he doesn't get too triggered by the symbols and the bar. Completely heartless, I mean, sure, here. It's not bad to see what happens in the middle, and it can be a little bit too exposed bypass. It is possible to live as an option to leave, not really like what happens with the attacks, but in my opinion it is a working scheme. I slightly missed the upper component in the attack from the nœud, but we will try to adjust it later with a trigger. You can do it with EQ on the channel itself. I would do it like this. If I were to do it, I would do it like this. I really like the way Pultec does it on the 12. Please, just in case anyone doesn't believe me, we'll do it on the live channel for now. We can leave it on the live channel, by the way, it's okay. It's okay, let's try to glue. But I frankly don't like the way the room sounds in this. To prevent repetition, I strive to avoid consistently using the same instruments. Sometimes I desire a touch of additional madness and whimsy, which prompts me to experiment with various compressors. For this purpose, I acquired an incredibly cool plugin named Ars124 from your collection, although despite the admiration, there remains some dislike. If you click here, it'll turn on superfuse mode. I'd be pretty harsh on the equalization here. I don't really like that, by the way. The equalization should be back here. You don't need it there. It gives a little bit of width. I would move it a little bit. You can do it with the Delio, or if you click here, Media Playback Offset, and move it by ear. I don't really like one area in these. The rooms are a little foggy. Let them live for now, although they're not really rooms for my taste. Some interesting microphone back. Yes, I need to think about the snapper. I'm not replacing anything completely. I just want to add a little click attack. To add a little click attack. And then it may not be needed here. Don't forget to check polar. And before we do that, Don't forget to put the right move file on this track. I'll probably do it like this because the music is quite, how to say, linearly dynamic, so monotonous. So I don't want to get heterogeneity and naturalness from the sample. It is all in the live. The drum is so machine gun indecent. There's a little bit of room here. You've got the bachanguet, the treatment itself. Fits. It could use a little bit of equalization to brighten it up a little bit. And now it would be nice to crush it all. Lately it's starting to look like I'm getting paid by the factory. Not bad, but still. time to open up our parallel portals. Now the barrel's gotten too much, so we're going to calm down. And I don't like the barrel's chilly resonance. Like something inexpressive, so I'm gonna take it. I'll probably do something like this. And then sometime like this, there is this weird one I remembered about it today. I haven't used it for 1,000 years. Digital drum compressor. It's a plug-in from a rapper and it's very evil. But I don't like that this thrash is very monophonic. I used to use the Ocean Way plugin. Well, let's try to keep it monophonic for now. You can already start to hear, I'm not saying it's going to be a super mix now, I'm just telling you the logic of how it works. You can already hear this crazy tone slowly starting to sink in. The long tail of the snare drum, which is often the thing that everyone is so afraid of on a record. And it's really, I would probably do it like this. I would take the snare drum and send the sum of all our snare drums and pack it neatly here. Indeed, it is likely that some individuals might claim that you failed to resolve the minor details. However, I, on the other hand, would resolve those minor details at a later point in the entirety of the situation with the help of automation, but I think it's very important to build the backbone of the sound, not to slow down on the little things, but to follow the energy. It's a little bit of a clip here, that's why. Since we are already in a high bit environment, I'll take this volume adjuster plugin, I'll do a minus 6 and listen to me, you piece of shit. Minus 160. Just kidding, 3 out of 10, so it's quieter. But just in case, the bass and guitar are just pilot tracks that were played with the drummer so that he's, well, it's a demo. The guitar is just a camper, the bass is just a D-box or just a camper. What's up? I like it, but what I do is I'd give the world a really neat equalization on the drum bus. Yeah, there's something going on in the clip. Honestly, I don't care yet. Let me turn off the guitar and the bass so you can hear it better. Notice that the overdriven stereo sample with the rum is kind of responsible for the extension of each snare hit in stereo. Well, it's time to try to make punchy drums like a tick. I rarely punch the drum bass, but if I did, I'd punch it with something like this. Oddly enough, it's very good with either a SSLG compressor or a soft tube bass processor. The vertical is hanging here. I have an iron one down here, but for some reason I don't use it at the moment. Someone bought an intensive, thanks man. Thanks Vyacheslav with a little bit too much with the crashes. Then we honestly, in a normal life, I would have cut it all by hand. Maybe I should have triggered them at all. It's unimpressive. Yes, in this case it would have triggered. Apparently we didn't bother with volume settings when we wrote the... The demo here is pretty good. May the floor be with him. So it's going to be like this. For some reason it keeps opening on a different desktop. Let's say this is it. This one doesn't need equalization. In real life, I would cut and trigger. To be honest, I don't really care about the top volume right now. It's not the kind of EQ that wants to touch the top. By the way, it's dynamic. I know I don't use it dynamically most of the time, but it doesn't bother me. Here, you can go to the mid equalization site and you can get a little bit in the mid. And in the garden there's a nasty little thing. Now we'll take it out carefully. Oops, that's not a site, that's a mid, or I'm a sucker. That's a site. It might be time to color this whole convulsion with some reverbs. In particular, I would definitely use 7 Heaven ambience. Let's start there. Heaven. It's gonna be a bummer if the video doesn't record or something. We'll just send a sniper snare over there for now. I'm sorry. My vocabulary friends. Pardon my language, folks. There's a beautiful ambience. That's where they spill the glue. I wouldn't hesitate to add a little boccaccio to it, all barrels together. Of course not. Not even a little bit of verve. I think I've applied a little play that also to the snares, but let it be a super play today. It's super, why not use it? Now the wrapper should crash at this point, by the way. If I was making this video in Pro Tools, he would have crashed 8 times already. Let's take everything from near and send it here. Let's call it super. Plejte ki prokazo. And with the difference, I'll probably make it mono, so we can have more of a sense of, say, depth that goes far away, the sound of a ship flying far away. Russian military. I like it. By the way, I'd probably do, you know what else I do with the gentleman there? I usually have a track in my template called Tom's Owl. I need it for 2 things. First of all, it usually has Pultec compressors on it. Second of all, it usually goes into reverb because I'm too lazy to send each house into reverb separately. Honey, or am I... It seems like something important I forgot to do. Where's your hope expander? Let's for a change. For a change, let's copy the preset from the rack, Tom to the Florta, and see what happens to it. No, I can't. It's just disrespectful to you. I'd rather do it like this. I don't really like the shorter dynamic range here, but from the I swear to you on the clean record wins. Okay, enough of us. I don't like it anyway. Let's hear it without the reverbs. Maybe this tire could use a clipper like a Caesar cakes clip. Like this. Well, roughly speaking, this is some kind of starting point. Usually it's about 35 minutes faster because you have to explain and the project is ready. In general, it's important to say that there is no such thing as drum mixing, which is what a lot of people speculate on, like drum masterclass. Drum mixing, drum mixing, drum mixing, drum mixing. With what can it even function without understanding what bass, what guitars, what vocals, what tempo and music, what genre? That's why you should not treat it as a... That's the only way you guys do it. It's just an entertaining video, like a little bit of watching a bearded old man agonizing at his desk. To put it crudely, I wouldn't dwell on the drums for longer than that. I'd move on to the bass and guitars. I'd put together a more coherent overall picture, and then I'd grind it down layer by layer to a good solid state, but the logic of the process. In general, if it's about rock music, it would be like this. I'll repeat that this tracking is not perfect. It's a demo, and I've said it 6 times probably for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it was useful for you. I remind you that I tell myself about it in detail in intensives. They are at the link in the description. You can put a like, you can put a dislike. But if you put a dislike, be sure to write in the comments, dude, you got a dislike for this, for this, for this, for this. Well, I wish everyone good luck, good mixes, and normal human attitude to each other. Do not give in to provocations. Friends, goodbye.